They say moving to a quiet neighborhood will save your sanity. That's a lie. Or at least it was for me, because the moment I saw him, sanity stopped being an option. It was a Tuesday afternoon in Portland, the kind where the sun hangs low enough to make everything look like a painting you can almost step into. I just finished hauling groceries up the steps of my new rental house, my so-called creative retreat, when I noticed a shadow stretching across my porch. He was leaning on the low fence next door, one boot hooked casually against the wood, a cigarette burning between his fingers. His eyes, deep, dark, and unsettlingly aware, met mine. In that instant, something in my chest tightened like a fist. "Need a hand?" His voice was low, rich, and carried the kind of lazy confidence you couldn't fake. I shook my head too quickly. "I'm fine," I lied, even though my pulse was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The truth was, from that second on, I wasn't fine at all. Over the next few days, I caught myself watching him from my kitchen window. Sometimes he'd be sitting on his porch, smoking, sometimes working on an old motorcycle, sometimes just staring out at nothing like he was waiting for something to find him. I started inventing excuses to be outside, taking out the trash twice a day, watering plants that didn't need watering. One evening, as the sky bled into shades of orange and purple, I was sketching on my porch when he walked over. "You draw?" he asked, nodding at my sketchbook. "Yeah," I said, flipping it closed too fast. "Just stuff." He smirked like he knew I was hiding something. "I'm Daniel," he said, offering his hand. His grip was warm, firm. "Eli," I replied, and just like that, he was in my life. Daniel had this way of making the simplest things feel loaded. A glance that lingered a fraction too long. A laugh that came low and close to your ear. It was dangerous, but the kind of danger you wanted to run toward. One night, after a week of small talk and stolen glances, I found myself in his house. The air smelled faintly of cedar and old leather. His living room was dim, lit only by a single lamp and the flicker of some black and white film playing on the TV. "You always this quiet?" he asked, pouring whiskey into two mismatched glasses. "Only when I'm trying not to say something stupid," I admitted. He handed me a glass, his fingers brushing mine. "Maybe you should just say it." I swallowed the whiskey, felt it burn all the way down. "You're hard to ignore." He smiled, slow and deliberate. "Good. But if Daniel was a mystery I wanted to solve, he was also a lock I couldn't quite pick. Some nights he'd disappear without explanation. Sometimes I'd catch a flicker of something in his eyes, fear, maybe, or guilt before he'd look away. One rainy night, I saw him in the alley behind his house, arguing with a man I'd never seen before. Their voices were sharp, their words lost under the sound of rain on asphalt. When the stranger left, Daniel stood there for a long time, drenched, his jaw tight. When I asked him about it, he just said, "Some people from my past don't know when to stay there." I didn't push, but the knot in my stomach didn't loosen. Things came to a breaking point 2 weeks later. I had just finished painting a portrait of him, though I'd never admit it, when he showed up at my door, soaked from another sudden Portland downpour. "I shouldn't be here," he said, voice rough. "Then why are you?" I asked. He stepped inside, rain dripping from his hair, his jacket. "Because you make me forget who I am when I'm not with you." The air between us snapped tight. I could feel the heat of him, the way his eyes searched mine like he was looking for something to hold on to. We kissed hard, desperate, like we'd both been holding our breath for weeks. His hands were on my face, in my hair, pulling me closer. My fingers curled into the back of his jacket, terrified he'd vanish if I let go. But the next morning he was gone. No note, no call. Days turned into a blur of unanswered knocks on his door. I tried painting, but every canvas came out empty. The neighborhood felt colder without him in it. When he finally came back, it was midnight. I heard the knock and opened the door to find him standing there, bruised, his lips split. "I had to take care of something," he said. "Something ugly." "You could have told me," I said, my voice shaking. "I didn't want you to see me like that," he admitted. "But I can't. I don't want to keep you at arm's length anymore." He stepped closer, and I could smell the faint trace of smoke and rain on him. Eli, I'm not good at this, but I want you. I think I've wanted you since the moment you dropped your groceries on the porch. I laughed through the tears I didn't realize I'd been holding back. Then stay. And he did. The weeks that followed weren't perfect, he still had shadows in his eyes, and I still didn't know everything about his past. But we painted over the quiet spaces between us with small, certain moments. His hand brushing mine while we cooked, his head resting on my shoulder during late-night movies, the way he'd kiss the paint off my fingers when I worked too long. One evening, I set up my easel on his porch and started painting him as he was no mystery, no armor. Just Daniel. When I showed him, he was quiet for a long time. Then he kissed me, soft and slow. "Guess I'm yours now," he murmured. And maybe that's what love is, not erasing the past, but finding someone who makes you want to stay in the present. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.